Okay, so this is from chapter 5 of your textbook. Okay, so we will cover two sections which are related to traffic flow theory in this in these slides, and then the remaining, will be covered in the other slides. Okay, so these are basically chapter sections 5.12 and 5.2 from chapter 5, which are related to traffic flow theory. Okay, so traffic flow theory means you are trying to analyze traffic operations, how traffic is operating. Okay, and in this very important analysis is the analysis of volume and capacity. Okay, so we will discuss volume here, and the capacity will be discussed in the future topics. Okay, in the other sections, coming sections. What is our goal when we are analyzing traffic operations? Our goal is to predict operational measures. Okay, operational measures means the parameters which indicate the operational quality of traffic flow, the quality of traffic flow. Okay, so the parameters which are related to the quality of traffic flow. Okay, and you can see some examples here. There are travel time, speeds, delay, queues, etc. Okay, and I think we have an idea how these measures are related to operational quality. Okay, so for example, travel time, we know if travel time increases, then the operational quality is getting lower. For speeds, it will be the other way around, because speed is inversely proportional to travel time. So speed increases, that means quality is improving. Okay, and delay and queues are same as travel time. When volume exceeds capacity, then you have a failure of the operational measures. Okay, so these operational measures work, or they are more important when volume is up till capacity. After capacity, if you have an indication that volume has gone above capacity, then that means all of these operational measures have now failed. The facility has now failed, and it will keep on deteriorating with the increase in volume. Okay, like the failure will keep on getting higher and higher with the increase in volume. Okay, so one of the examples of this phenomena is queue spillback. Now queue spillback means what? That the queue is getting longer basically. The queue is getting longer. So what will happen? For example, I have this highway. Okay, and on this highway, let's say there is an incident here. Okay, or let us just say, okay, no incident, we are talking about volume above capacity, so we'll remove the incident. So let's say on this highway you have a traffic jam which is starting from this point. Okay, so traffic jam means the volume has gone above capacity. Okay, so as more time passes in this condition, what will happen? You will have a queue of vehicles which will keep on getting longer and longer and longer. Okay, so this is what we call as queue spillback. And what can happen in some cases that the queue can go to the length of the segment. So this is your segment, and at this position you have an intersection. So this queue can spill back into the intersection. So now the flow, the volume, or the number of cars which were supposed to be in your segment, which were supposed to pass from your segment, are now blocking the intersection, have gone beyond the length of the segment, and they are now blocking an intersection. And obviously when you block an intersection, that means you are also blocking this segment, you are blocking this segment, and you are also obviously blocking this segment as well. Okay, so this is what we call as queue spillback. When the queue gets so long that it goes beyond the length of the segment and starts blocking an intersection, resulting in stopping flow from the other road segments as well. This is what we call as queue spillback. So this happens when you have a failure condition, volume above capacity. Okay, and it keeps on, this condition persists for a long time. Okay, now performance of traffic operations is called as quality or level of service. Okay, both terms are used for denoting the performance of traffic operations, quality of traffic operations, level of service or quality of service. Level of service is more common. Level of service is more common, but quality of service is also used in some books and by some researchers. So how do we predict the performance of traffic flow? Or how do we predict the performance of traffic operations? It is based upon traffic flow theory. Okay, the relationships which are derived from traffic flow theory, these relationships are calibrated to local conditions. Okay, so how do we calibrate them to local conditions? That we will come to know in the next sections of the chapter. But in this chapter, we will look at traffic flow theory relationships. Okay, how traffic parameters like travel time, speed, delay, queues, how they are interrelated to each other. Okay, because it will not be possible for us to measure each and everything on the highway. We have to measure few parameters and then we put them in an equation to find out the other parameters. Okay, so if you don't know the relationship between the parameters, you cannot do that. So you, as a traffic analyst, as a traffic engineer, you must have a good understanding of traffic flow theory so that you can apply it correctly and calculate the parameters accurately and find out the performance of the traffic operations. Okay, if this basic thing is missing from your understanding, then you cannot do traffic. You cannot analyze traffic operations. You cannot measure its quality. You cannot, propose any new changes and so on and so forth. Okay. What is the purpose of analyzing traffic operations? The main purpose is to find out the state of the system. Like I said, the quality or level of service of the system for present, okay, for present or maybe for future. Okay, future state, finding out the future state of the system is more common. Okay, so we are analyzing traffic system to see what is happening right now, or more commonly what will happen in future if we do this or that. Like we began in the previous chapter, if we are making any changes on the highway, then or on any facility near the highway, then what are the changes in traffic operations that can happen? What are the inputs you require? You require two types of input: demand side inputs and supply side inputs. Okay, so demand side means inputs regarding traffic, and supply side means inputs regarding the infrastructure you are providing. Okay, so demand side means the traffic of cars, the traffic of trucks. Okay, pedestrians, bicyclists. Okay, so these are all part of the demand of the highway, the demand of the traffic system. Again, because these are people who want to use the traffic system in different roles. Okay, some of them are car drivers and passengers, some of them are truck drivers. Okay, or some of them are freight transporters. Okay, pedestrians, bicyclists who want to travel through a point. So this is all part of the demand side. Then supply side includes how many of the above users can actually travel through that point. Okay, how many of cars, trucks, pedestrians, and bicyclists can travel through that point. Now, in demand, we are saying they aim to travel through that point. They want to travel through that point. But how many can travel? Okay, so this want and this can makes the difference between the demand and the supply side. Okay. So in that case, if you are trying to find out how many can pass, then you need the characteristics of the road system. For example, the type of intersection you are using. Every intersection has its own capacity. The number of lanes, the radius of the turning movements, okay, and the radius of the curves which you are providing for the turning movements and so on and so forth. Okay, so this will indicate, or this will affect the number of users that can pass from the facility. Okay, and the number of users that can pass from your facility, what do we call them? What do we call that? The number of users that can pass from your facility, what do we call it? The maximum number of users that can pass from your facility, what do we call it?
Capacity.
Yes, capacity. Good. So you can do it for analyze traffic operations or find out the state of the system for points, specific points. For example, you may have some toll gates, you may have some bridges. Okay, so you want to find out the state of the system on the bridge. Okay, you can do it for intersections. Okay, intersections are also sort of a point, but they are more complicated. Gates and bridges, that means it's a simple road segment. Okay, but at that particular point it is like separated from the other parts of the highway. Okay, but still it's a point. Intersection is also a point, but you know that intersection is providing the connection between different road segments. Or you can do it for a whole segment. Okay, you can do traffic operation analysis for a segment, or you can do it at the facility level as well. Okay, and later on we will discuss all of them. Okay, and I will tell you the differences between them as well. When you are collecting demand data, then you have to cater or consider different variations in the demand data. Okay, and you have to also have to consider how will you measure the traffic. Okay, so you have to consider how the traffic is changing and how you will measure it. Okay, for example, what is the mix of vehicle? Mix of vehicle meaning how many cars, buses, and trucks and bikes you have. This is a mix of vehicles. So this will come under the variation of the demand side. Okay, how traffic is distributed in terms of time. Which ones? What are the peak hours? Okay, when do you have high traffic? Okay, so this will also impact. This is part of the demand variation, and this will also impact how do you want to measure it, in which time, for how long you will do the measurement of the demand data, and so on. And as I said earlier, when here traffic is generally applied to all these things. Okay, cars, trucks, pedestrians, bicyclists, so all types of traffic. Okay, then details of the supply data, as I said, it will include the number of lanes, lane width, shoulder clearance, radius, etc. Okay, and if you are using any traffic control devices, that is also part of the supply data. Traffic control devices including traffic signals, yield signs, stop signs, okay, and so on and so forth. Now, a particular facility may have different capacities for different road users. The same facility can have different capacity for different types of road users. For example, if you measure capacity in terms of passenger cars, okay, which you may remember, this is how we measure capacity for traffic system, right? We measure it in terms of passenger cars per hour per day. Okay, so if you consider capacity with the unit of passenger cars, then you may have capacity up to 2,000 passenger cars per hour per day. But if you say we will measure it in terms of trucks, then it will not be 2,000, right? Okay, if you are incorporating a flow of 2,000 passenger cars in 1 hour, and if you replace the passenger cars with trucks, then obviously it may only be 1,000. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, it may only be 1,000 or even maybe less than 1,000 trucks per hour per day. Okay. Similarly, the same road segment, okay, in terms of crossing of the pedestrians, may have a capacity of, let's say, 500 passengers, 500 pedestrians per hour, but in terms of bicycles, it may have a capacity of, let's say, 800 bicycles per hour. Okay, so this is also important in which units you are measuring the capacity. Okay, so this is, you can say, also part of the supply data. What are the units for measuring the capacity? Okay, or you can make it the part of demand data as well, for which road user you are eventually going to measure the level of service of the traffic operations. Okay, so capacity, the unit of a capacity will affect the demand as well as the supply side data. Okay, SCM stands for what? SCM stands for what?
Highway Capacity Manual.
Yes, Highway Capacity Manual. This is the manual which we have used in the traffic engineering course as well, and the main this is the main reference for operational analysis of traffic, okay, including level of service and capacity. Okay, so for all types of operational analysis, the main reference which is used worldwide is Highway Capacity Manual. Highway Capacity Manual has its applications in measuring traffic operations, and we have seen in the last chapter that traffic operations can affect transportation planning aspects as well, right? That you are trying to find out, we discussed about traffic impact analysis, we discussed about trip assignment, how trip assignment is dependent upon the capacity of the system and so on and so forth. Okay, and it can affect the road safety as well. Okay, although road safety is not directly discussed in highway capacity manual, they have another manual for that, but using or the concepts of highway capacity manual also have safety aspects in them. So if you say the gradient, or if you say the the width of the lane, so that gradient or the width of the lane is considered safe. If you are recommending it from highway capacity manual, then it is considered safe for the operations of traffic as well. So safety is inherently included in the operational analysis of highway capacity manual. Okay, when you are using the this manual is fulfilling three main objectives. Okay, the main objectives are, the first one is defining the performance measures, okay, and how to collect them. So I've already discussed about performance measures, the parameters which help you define or indicate the performance of the system. How do you measure the performance of traffic system? What are the parameters? So these parameters are given or defined by highway capacity manual, and how to collect these parameters is also provided. The methodology to collect them is also provided. Okay, then once you collect the parameters, the next step would be using them to predicting and estimating the performance. Okay, so this is the second objective of highway capacity manual, that it provides methodologies by which you can estimate and predict the performance measures of the highway. Okay, so you collected some data, okay, some key characteristics from the about traffic, then you use these key characteristics to find out the performance measures and to predict them for future as well. Then it also, the third objective is to provide methodologies that you as readers can understand which factors have so that providing methodologies so that readers can understand which factors are affecting the traffic operations, especially multimodal traffic operations. Okay, like I have showed you in the previous slide, the demand or the supply incorporates different types of traffic modes, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and trucks and cars. These are different modes of transportation. Okay, so a highway which is serving different types of traffic modes or transportation modes should be analyzed using multimodal operations. Okay, it is having multi modes, right? Multiple modes. Okay, so its operations should be analyzed in this manner that you can see the effect on different modes. Okay, so the highway capacity manual also provides methodologies so that you understand which factors can affect this multimodal operation of the highway. Okay, so one particular aspect may not be affecting, for example, car users, but that particular aspect may be affecting trucks. For example, gradient. Gradient has less effect on cars compared to trucks. Okay, so if you focus on just one mode of transportation, obviously then gradient may be ignored. Okay, but this is not the case for highways, even for bicycles. Bicycle riders get more affected by the gradient as compared to other users. Okay, so this is one of the examples on how a particular parameter or how a particular factor can affect differently the different types of people who are using the highway. Okay, so SCM takes care of this issue, that it will show you, or it will explain that if you are changing this parameter, then which road users can it affect. Okay, and shows you how you can measure this effect on different road users and so on and so forth. So SCM is adopted by many countries. As I said, it is used worldwide. Some countries like Germany have come up with their own manual. Okay, so their manual is called as HBS. Okay, let me see. I think I may have written the full form. No, I didn't. Okay. But anyways, it has some meaning in German language. Okay, so HBS is an alternative which is adopted in Germany for SCM. Okay, but again the purpose is the same, to measure the capacity and operational conditions of the highways. Okay, but obviously we don't have it for Bahrain as with many other countries, so we can use SCM in our case. Okay, so when you are analyzing traffic operations, okay, where does it fit in the transportation management system process? Okay, so transportation management is a whole process. Okay, and this process includes mainly these 4 factors. Okay, facility design, which you covered in the highway engineering course mainly, and some of it you will also cover in the pavement design course as well. So in facility design, you do the geometric design, the pavement design, okay, for freeways, intersections, arterials, and any multimodal facilities. Then we come to the planning stage, planning for future, okay, planning and forecasting, which we have covered in the last chapter, trip generation, trip distribution, mode split, traffic assignment, and then the next 2 stages, traffic operations and traffic management strategies. These are mainly dependent upon the traffic flow theory. Okay, so in traffic operations, you are trying to find out the performance of the facility, performance of the system, the perspective of the user regarding traffic operations, and the level of service of the facility. And in traffic management strategies, you are trying to manage different lanes. You are trying to see different strategies by which you can reduce the demand, by which you can decrease congestion, and so on and so forth. Okay, so traffic operations, the main thing on which we will focus on these slides involves traffic operations involves measuring or predicting the performance of this demand for the system. Okay, you measure the performance performance because of the demand of the system. If this is the demand of the system, then how much, then what will be the performance level? Okay, you can do it for the whole system. You can do it for individual links and nodes. Okay, and for different users of the facility as well, different users of the system as well. So you may be looking at the demand from the perspective of, let's say, pedestrians, or from the perspective of car users only. Okay, like I said, this can change your performance measures. Okay, this can change the capacity and capacity measures and so on and so forth. Okay, but anyways, you measure these things using some quantifiable measures of effectiveness. Okay, MOE stands for measures of effectiveness. MOE stands for measures of effectiveness. Okay, so these are the measures, or these are the parameters which you can easily measure in the field, and they can show the performance or effectiveness of the traffic operations. Okay, parameters which you can easily measure in the field and which can show the performance or the effectiveness of the traffic system for different users. Okay, so like I showed you in the first slide, it can be travel time, it can be speed, it can be any of these parameters, okay, which you can measure easily and which is impacting the road user. Okay, so we let us define capacity before we move on to the analysis. So capacity, like I said, is a supply side measure. Okay, so how many road users can pass, we simply define it as that. But in highway capacity manual of 2015, they have this complete definition. Okay, the simple definition is how many road users can pass from a particular point or a segment, but the complete definition is given here. So this is the maximum sustainable flow rate. Okay, so I will try to explain the main terms here. First of all, maximum. So this is, the maximum, but the main thing is sustainable. Okay, I may have mentioned that, for example, if you have 10,000 vehicles which are stuck on a road in a traffic jam, you cannot call 10,000 as a capacity, because that 10,000 is not moving. It's not sustainable. Okay, sustainable means it is something which you can maintain for longer periods of time. Okay, so obviously traffic jam, nobody wants to maintain traffic jam, right? So this is the maximum sustainable flow rate. Okay, sustainable flow rate. So something which is moving and which can be maintained for longer periods of time. Okay, in a specific time periods, the flow rate, the actual flow rate of the facility can go above capacity as well by few vehicles, like 1, 2, 3 vehicles can still, if like maybe like for example, if 5 vehicles are above capacity, the vehicles may still move because the drivers are aggressive, and they are giving each other sufficient space and so on, and they can move close to each other and they are still moving. Okay, but this is not sustainable because at some other time with some other drivers, this much flow rate may not be able to move. Okay, so sustainable means something which you can expect to move almost at any time. If I have this much flow rate with any type of drivers, in any type of traffic conditions or weather conditions, this much flow can move. This is what we mean by sustainable. Okay, something which you can expect on on continuous basis. Okay, if this much flow rate is there, irrespective of the condition of the road and the weather conditions and so on, this will still move. Okay, and it is flow rate. Now, can somebody tell me what is flow rate? What is flow rate?
The maximum speed which
No.
Number of vehicles passing through segment per duration.
Per what?
Per duration time, like for example, hour.
Hour? Number of vehicles passing through a point per hour? Yeah. Sure.
Per 15 minutes, doctor.
Per 15 minutes, yes. Per 15 minutes, but that is flow. Per 15 minutes is flow. What is flow rate?
Multiplied by 4.
Multiply by 4. Thanks. Multiply by 4. This is why we call it rate. Okay, so flow is measured for less than 1 hour, and then you convert it to an hourly rate. That is flow rate. Okay, so capacity is that maximum sustainable flow which can be maintained over an hour. Okay, so it is even, so you are taking care of the variation within the hour as well. You are taking care of variation within the hour as well. Okay, and if you remember in the last chapter and even in the traffic engineering course, this is why we use a factor of peak hour factor. So peak hour factor is basically the factor which you use to find out the maximum flow rate. Okay, so maximum flow rate is the flow which you can maintain throughout the hour, even with the peaking of the traffic and so on. With the variation within the traffic, you can maintain it throughout the hour. Okay, so it can be measured in terms of vehicles or persons. Okay, because again we are talking about different types of road users, so we are talking about pedestrians as well. Obviously you will measure in terms of persons then. Okay, that can be reasonably expected. Now you see here, this term is linked with sustainable. Like I said, at some times you may have flow slightly over capacity or slightly below capacity, which can still be maintained. Okay, in some cases you may have flow, let's say, equal to capacity exactly, and still you see a traffic jam because some of the drivers were not driving properly, or the pavement surface was not in good condition or so on and so forth. So in very few cases, you may still see that the flow is below capacity or equal to capacity, and still you see a traffic jam. But this is not the general case. The general case is that if the flow is up to this much, that you expect it to move. Okay, so that is what we mean by sustainable, and this is something related to reasonableness. Okay, and the expectation. Okay, so these things are pointing out these reasonably expected. This term is basically pointing out the fact that this is our expectation and this is what we expect on the highway, the flow rate to be on the highway in most of the conditions. Like I said, in some conditions you may have slightly over capacity, flow rate slightly over capacity that is still moving, and in some conditions you may see flow rate equal or slightly less than capacity and that is still getting stuck. Okay, so this is the flow rate which you are expecting to move in most of the conditions. Okay, from a point or uniform segment of a lane or roadway during a specific time period under given conditions. Okay, conditions including the roadway conditions, geometric conditions, traffic, environmental and control conditions, and usually it is expressed as vehicles per hour or passenger cars per hour or persons per hour. Okay, so they are giving us three measures of capacity: vehicles per hour. Okay, so it will include all types of vehicles, passenger cars per hour or persons per hour. Okay, now again couple of points here. So to traverse a point, obviously if I ask you like you have done already for your traffic for your term project, that you went on to the field and you measured the flow for 15 minutes, right? So you were counting vehicles which are passing in front of you. Okay, so you were counting flow. So flow is generally measured over a point. Flow is generally measured over a point. Okay, because the sensor or the observer is standing at a point or fixed over a point, and it is counting the number of vehicles. So capacity by default is for a point. Okay, capacity by default is for a point, but if the characteristics of the point of that point remain the same throughout the segment, then the capacity will also remain the same throughout the segment as well. Okay, so for example, you have a road segment. Okay, and in this road segment I have two lanes, the lane width is the same, the gradient is the same, the shoulder, median, everything is the same. So it doesn't matter whether you are defining capacity at this point or at this point, because it's a uniform segment, so the capacity will remain the same, the flow and the capacity will remain the same. Okay, so capacity by default over a point, but if the characteristics do not change, then it will remain uniform for the whole segment as well. Okay, and capacity can be for a lane or for the whole roadway. Okay, if you remember in the traffic engineering course, we used to define capacity as passenger cars per hour per lane. Okay, so that was defined for a lane. Okay, over a specific time period. Okay, so you obviously for an hour, right? They have given us here vehicles per hour, passenger cars per hour. So our time period is normally an hour. Under given conditions, which conditions do we consider? We consider the roadway conditions, for example, the pavement, okay, the light conditions, okay, of the road, and the geometric conditions of the road, geometric design of the road, gradients, widths, horizontal curves, vertical curves. Okay, traffic conditions including peak hour factor, percentage of trucks. Okay, and some other things. Okay, we will discuss them later on. Environmental conditions. Okay, they include the weather. Most importantly, the weather, the land use around the area. Okay, or anything the natural light and so on and so forth. And control conditions. I've already told you the control devices which you are using, the type of control devices you are using, whether you are using a stop sign or a signal or a roundabout or what. Okay, so all these things affect the capacity of the highway or the capacity of the point. Okay, so you can see three different regimes or three different conditions of the road related to the capacity. Okay, the first condition is that the volume which is arriving to the road is less than the capacity. Okay, so and that now you can see here they are using, so the segment from which the vehicles are coming is a wider segment, you can see it here. Okay, so it was a wider segment and then you are coming into a smaller segment. Okay, so the volume which is arriving is equal to the volume which you can serve. Volume which you can serve means the capacity. Okay, volume which you can serve means the capacity of the route. So the volume which is arriving to the segment is less than its capacity, so there is no problem here. This is what we call as undersaturated conditions. Okay, then you can see here the saturated condition. Saturated means now when something is saturated, it means it is completely filled, right? So this is what we mean here. The segment is completely filled. So the segment has reached its capacity. The volume which is arriving is equal to the volume which in this segment, obviously we are talking about this segment, okay? In all these three figures, we are talking about this segment. So the volume which is coming from wider segment to this smaller segment is equal to the volume which it can serve. Okay, so it is called as saturated. The volume has reached its capacity. Okay, and then you can see oversaturated conditions. The volume which is arriving is more than the volume which the road can serve. So the volume which the road can serve, the flow rate which the road can serve, which is equal to capacity, will pass, and the remaining cars will start building up the queue at the start of this segment, right, or at the end of the wider segment. So you can see the queue build-up case here. Okay, so we call it queue build-up or oversaturated regime or oversaturated conditions. Okay, so with respect to capacity, the road can be in undersaturated, saturated, or oversaturated condition. Okay, now they have given us the capacity in terms of passenger cars per hour per lane for different facilities. Okay, and these are given, as you can see here, these values are given in base or ideal conditions. In base or ideal conditions, what are the base or ideal conditions? We will discuss them later on. Okay, what are the ideal conditions for measuring the capacity of the road? We will discuss them later on. Okay, but keep in mind these values will change and will reduce if you are not having the ideal conditions. Okay, so for freeways, expressways, ramps, and the high-speed roads, the arterials basically, the ramps which are linked to the arterials, their capacity is measured in per lane per hour, and the value is 2400. So this is 2400 passenger cars, like they are saying 2400 passenger cars per lane per hour. Okay, so all these values are in passenger cars, and the units of time and other things are read from this second column. Okay, so it will be 2400 passenger cars per lane per hour, or per hour per lane. Okay, this is what I normally say. For 2-lane highways in both directions, you have 2800 passenger cars, again 2800 passenger cars per hour. So this is not per lane now. They are saying for both lanes, okay, which are in both directions. So 2-lane means I have 1 lane in each direction. Okay, keep it in mind. 2-lane means I have 1 lane in each direction. So 2-lane meaning this is 2800 is the capacity of this highway for both directions. Okay. Then if you have an urban signalized intersection, then the capacity is 1900 passenger cars, again per hour per lane for through movement. Okay, for through movement at continuous green time, during continuous green time, per hour of green time. So 1900 passenger cars per lane per hour of green time. Okay, so this can give you the idea of what we mean by base or ideal conditions. Obviously, you cannot have a signal which shows green time for 1 hour, right? So we are talking about continuous 1 hour of green. We are not talking about that you distribute the green hour in in different segments and then you are counting cars in each segment, and when you reach 60 minutes of green time you add them, it will come to 1900. No, we mean continuous 1900 continuous green time of 1 hour. So this is part of the ideal conditions. Okay. Now they are saying here that they have used the word urban here. So urban areas, according to them, are the areas which have population more than 250,000. Okay, more than 250,000. Then we have a small town or signalized intersections, a small town or rural signalized intersections. For that, then the capacity will be lower. It will be 1750 per lane, again per hour of continuous green. And then we have modern roundabouts. I will try to show later on when we are discussing intersections a sketch of the modern roundabouts. Okay, so total this is the capacity of the modern roundabout is 1400 to 1600. Again, passenger cars per approach lane without any conflicting traffic in the circle. So again, it is continuous flow. 1400 to 1600 when it is moving continuously. So vehicles are coming and they don't have to stop. They are just coming and entering the roundabout. Okay. And the 1400 to 1600, the range depends upon the geometry of the roundabout. Obviously, the diameter of the roundabout, the number of lanes in the roundabout, and so on. Okay, but this is the capacity of the lane which is entering the roundabout without any conflicting traffic, moving in the circle. Okay, then you can have 1400 to 1600 passenger cars in 1 hour. Okay, so in case of intersection, you can actually see what are the base and ideal conditions. This is basically having continuous flow. The base of the ideal condition is having continuous flow, which is obviously not the case. So the actual capacity of the intersection will be less than these values, right? It will be less than these values. You cannot attain them because you cannot have 1 hour of continuous flow. Okay, what are the factors which can affect the capacity? We said roadway conditions. Roadway conditions include the geometric characters of the street, okay, which include the type of facility, and type of facility means the type of road, arterials, collectors, local roads. Okay, what you have around the facility, what type of land use you have. Okay, we have discussed about land use in the previous chapter. Number of lanes, the width of the lane, the shoulder, lateral clearance. Okay, the objects which are on the side of the road, how far they are from the road, the design speed, and the vertical and the horizontal alignment. Then traffic conditions also affect capacity, and these conditions include characteristics of the vehicle which are using the facility. Okay, what types of vehicles are using the facility, what are their characteristics, acceleration, deceleration, how much braking distance they need, what distribution of vehicle types you have, percentage of trucks, percentage of buses, percentage of bikes, and so on. Okay, how much traffic you have in the available lanes. Okay, the demand, how much traffic demand you have, and the directional distribution of traffic, how much traffic is coming in one direction, how much is coming in the other direction, percentage. Okay, control conditions include the type and design of the control devices and the traffic regulations which are used on the roadway intersection. Okay, they include the location of the control device, where you are putting the control device, on the side of the road, overhead, in the middle of the intersection, type of control device you are using, signal, roundabout, stop sign. Okay, timing of the traffic signals if you are using the traffic signals. Okay, stop and yield signs, lane restrictions. Sometimes you see lane restrictions that this lane is only for buses, this lane is only for trucks. Okay, or this lane will be used by trucks at a speed of 70 miles per hour, 70 kilometers per hour. This is very common in Bahrain as well. Any turning restrictions. So you may see at some intersections, some turns are not allowed. U-turns are not allowed, for example. Not allowing U-turns is very common on many intersections, especially for heavy vehicles. Okay, so these are known as the control conditions. Okay, so anything which is regulating the traffic flow, which is showing a law applied to the traffic flow, that is part of control conditions. Okay, then we have the concept of level of service. Okay, or inshallah. Okay, Ali Akil, Ali Salah, and Iman Kamil. Okay, Ali Salah is here. Ali Akil and Iman Kamil. Ali Akil. Asma Khalil, Zahra Sayyed, Nujud Salah. Asma, Zahra, and Nujud. Nujud Salah, not here. Dana Nasir, Nadine Hussam, Noor Yusuf. Dana Nasir, Nadine Hussam, Noor Yusuf. Okay. Dana Isa, Reem Abdul Hamid, Zainab Muhammad. Dana Isa, Reem, Zainab, Reem Abdul Hamid. Asil Adnan, Nadir Abdul Monim, Latifa Ahmad. Asil Adnan, Nadir, okay. Asil Adnan.
Doctor, I'm here. Reem.
Yeah, marked you. Salma Jafar, Qasim Tahir, Badr Ghassan. Badr is here, Qasim is here, Salma is here, okay. Reem is here as well. Muhammad Akbar, Ahmad Amin, Ibrahim Muhammad. Okay. Okay, thank you. See you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.